They laughed when I pulled up. Old car scratched door rattle when I turned off the engine. Someone whispered, "She's still driving that thing." A few chuckles followed. It wasn't cruel, just familiar. That kind of laugh that pretends not to mean anything. They didn't know I arrived straight from a private jet. Didn't know my name was stitched into a merger headline last year. Didn't know I owned the tech that rerouted half the delivery fleet on the West Coast. But I didn't tell them. I just smiled, stepped inside, and took my usual seat at the edge. Like always, people talked around me, voices full of champagne and curated lives. They saw me as the quiet one, the frugal one, the one who never quite made it. And I let them, because when the truth finally lands, it doesn't need a microphone. The house looked the same. String lights draped across the backyard, gold cutlery on navy linens, soft jazz humming beneath the chatter. It was my sister's engagement dinner, her big night. She wore champagne silk and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I arrived 20 minutes late, not to make a statement, just to miss the part where everyone sizes you up. Mom greeted me with her signature line, "Elena, we weren't sure you'd come," which meant we hoped you wouldn't. I handed over the gift, a simple box neatly wrapped. She didn't open it. Inside, people clinked glasses and praised job promotions, new condos, upcoming weddings. No one asked what I'd been up to. They never did. My chair at the end of the table wasn't just a seat. It was a position, a reminder. I wasn't part of the story they liked to tell. I used to try harder, smiled wider, brought wine, laughed at jokes that weren't mine to enjoy. One year, I offered to cover my niece's school tuition. My sister told everyone I was trying to buy her love. She said it with a laugh, but the sting stayed. Another time, I remembered every birthday. Sent gifts early, no one mentioned them. Once I paid the entire bill at a family dinner. My uncle joked that I must be desperate for attention. Eventually, I stopped trying, stopped offering, stopped asking, not out of pride, out of self-preservation, because when you're always the one giving, they forget to ask if you're okay. They forget to wonder if you're more than the story they've written. And when they forget for long enough, you start to disappear, even when you're sitting right there. I moved to Portland when I was 23, a city where no one knew my name, where silence wasn't loaded with history. They said I was running away. I called it learning how to breathe. I rented a tiny studio with a broken heater and windows that rattled in the wind, a mattress on the floor. No curtains. But it was mine. For the first time, no one watched how I lived. No one asked why I didn't bring a date, or if I ever planned to settle down. I worked 2 jobs, a receptionist by day, a delivery driver by night, and somewhere between the exhaustion and the late night takeout, an idea started to form. Small, messy, mine. It didn't look like much, but it felt like the first time I was building something not to be seen but to survive. The idea came from frustration, missed deliveries, lost routes, wasted hours behind the wheel. I thought, what if there was a better way? So I opened my old laptop, the one with the cracked screen and missing keys, and I started coding. I didn't know if it would work, I just knew I needed it. At first it was clunky, slow, ugly. I worked on it after shifts. Curled on the floor with cold coffee and aching wrists. No one knew. No one cared. But every night I wrote one more line, and with each line I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Control, direction, quiet purpose. It wasn't a dream yet, it was just survival, but that was enough to keep going. I didn't tell anyone about the tool, not friends, not family. It wasn't a secret, just something I didn't want misunderstood. I shared it in a tiny online forum, a place where tired drivers posted tips and complained about outdated apps. One person downloaded it, then 3, then 10. They started messaging me. "Hey, this actually works. Did you build this alone? Can I pay you to add a feature?" I wasn't ready. But I answered every message, every bug report, every midnight crash. One guy in Chicago said my app saved him an hour a day. That was the first time I cried, not from sadness, but because something I made mattered. Not on a stage, not at a dinner table, but out there in the real world. And that was the first time I thought, maybe I'm not invisible after all. Success didn't come all at once. It came in pings, in emails, in quiet validations, but with each step forward, a voice followed me. Not loud, just steady. "You're not qualified. This won't last. Someone smarter will do it better." It sounded a lot like people I used to know, but mostly it sounded like me. I kept working anyway, not because I felt brave, but because stopping would mean agreeing, and I wasn't ready to give them that. So I pulled double shifts, slept 4 hours a night, ate rice and eggs, and counted quarters at the laundromat. Some weeks I wanted to quit, to disappear again, to make myself small like before, but something in me had shifted. And once you feel your own worth, you can't unknow it. It came on a Tuesday, subject line. Your tool. Ever thought about scaling it? A logistics firm in Singapore had found the app, said they were interested in a partnership. I thought it was spam, almost deleted it, but I read it twice, then a third time. They weren't asking for a resume, they didn't want a pitch deck, they just wanted to talk. I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands didn't move, my heart did. I'd built this in silence, in worn pajamas, in a basement where the pipes leaked in winter, and now someone on the other side of the world thought it was worth something. Not just useful, valuable. I didn't know how to scale a product. I barely knew how to keep the lights on, but I said yes. And that one yes started a different kind of fire. We scheduled the first call for 2 a.m. their time zone. My nerves. I had no pitch, no team, just a browser tab open and a notebook full of scribbles. They asked smart questions, technical ones I barely knew how to answer, but they listened. And more than that, they respected me. Not because of how I looked, not because I dropped big names, but because I'd built something that worked. They offered mentorship, a small investment, and a challenge make it real. I didn't sleep that night. Paced the apartment until sunrise, worried I'd mess it up, worried I already had. But then I remembered no one from back home knew this version of me. And maybe that was the best part. I was building something with no one watching. I posted a listing in a developer forum. Just one sentence, looking for someone to help scale a small courier tool. Not fancy, just real. Within a week, I had 4 replies. 2 flaked, 1 tried to upsell me. But the last one Aisha wrote, "I like what you're doing. Let's make it work." She didn't ask about my background. She didn't care that I didn't have a company logo. We worked side by side for months, late nights, Slack threads, screen share marathons. She called it scrappy. I called it everything I had. Each update made it stronger, cleaner, faster. I paid her with savings meant for emergencies. It felt right. This was the emergency. Because for the first time, what I was building wasn't just mine, it was becoming ours. And ours felt like a kind of home I'd never known before. A courier in Phoenix tweeted about us, said our tool shaved 30 minutes off his route. He tagged 3 friends. Then 10 more drivers followed. We didn't pay for ads, didn't chase press, just fixed bugs and answered emails. Word spread on its own. In group chats, Reddit threads, Slack channels for small delivery teams. We passed 500 users in a month, 1,000 the next. I built a dashboard just to keep up. Watch the dots light up across the map. Chicago, Atlanta, San Diego. These weren't clicks. They were people. People choosing something I made in silence. I still hadn't told my family, not because I was hiding, but because I didn't want them to shrink it, to twist it into something small. This mattered, and it was finally moving on its own. The numbers kept climbing. More users, more upgrades, more emails that ended with "thank you." This helps. I should have felt proud. Sometimes I did. But the pride came with shadows. I still heard their voices. "You've always been the quiet one." She never really fit in. It didn't matter how far I'd come. Some part of me still walked like I was in their house, careful, small, apologizing for taking up space. I kept wondering, if I ever told them what I built, would they finally see me? Would they care? Then I remembered that hospital room. The one with the white walls and no visitors. I had almost died. Not one call. That silence taught me more than any success ever could. It taught me who they were. And more importantly, who I no longer had to be. I stopped sending holiday texts, stopped reaching first, stopped waiting for birthdays to mean something. It wasn't dramatic, no big announcement, just silence, chosen this time. I still showed up for big things, weddings, funerals, just enough to stay a name on the family thread. But I stopped giving them access to the real me. They asked how I was. I said, fine. They asked what I'd been up to. I said, busy. I left out the milestones, the growth, the team I was leading, the company I'd built, not because it didn't matter, but because they didn't ask to really know. They asked to keep me in place, and I was done shrinking just to make them comfortable. It started with a meeting, a logistics firm out of Toronto. Big reach, big budget. They wanted to talk partnership. I flew coach, wore black slacks and clean sneakers. No logo, no pitch deck, just the product. They ran the numbers, asked about uptime retention, API flexibility. I answered calmly. Not because I was fearless, but because I knew my work. By the end of the meeting, they made an offer. More than I'd made in 10 years. More than my parents ever dreamed. I walked out of that office with a simple folder in my hand. No celebration, no champagne, just quiet disbelief. Back at the hotel, I sat on the bed staring at the wall, realizing this happened, and no one back home had a clue. I could have told them. One text, one phone call. It wouldn't have been hard. Hey, I sold the company. Hey, I did something you never asked about, but I didn't. Not because I was hiding, because I wasn't sure it would mean anything to them. Not in the way it meant something to me. They would have smiled, said, wow, told their friends, but deep down they'd still say, she got lucky. She's always been a bit different. And I didn't want my biggest moment turned into a rumor that fit better with their version of me. So I kept it, tucked away like a secret I didn't need to prove. Some victories are too sacred to hand to people who only clap when they understand. I didn't buy a new car, didn't move to a high-rise, didn't post anything online. Instead, I reinvested, not into stocks, not into status, into people. I started a new venture, one focused on sustainable tools for small businesses. Quiet work, nothing flashy. I didn't name the company after myself. Didn't need my name on the door, only wanted impact. My new team didn't care where I came from. They cared how I showed up. And I did fully. I paid everyone well, listened more than I spoke, built systems that could run without me. Success, I'd learned, wasn't measured by who clapped, it was measured by what remained when the room got quiet. And this time, the quiet felt like home. The envelope came on a Wednesday. Heavy cardstock, gold trim, my sister's name in cursive across the top, engagement dinner. At my parents' house, backyard string lights, catered meal. I stared at it for a while, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew exactly how it would feel. The same looks, the same comments, the same version of me they'd never let go of. I almost tossed it, almost replied, can't make it busy with work, but something in me paused. Not out of spite, not to make a statement, just curiosity. Not about them, about me. Would I still shrink in a room that once made me invisible, or had I finally grown too big to disappear? I kept it simple. A black dress, no label. Clean heels, hair pulled back, no jewelry, no designer bag, nothing that could be called showing off. I wasn't there to impress. But I wasn't there to disappear either. Still, as I looked in the mirror, I felt the old reflexes rising. Stand smaller, speak softer, don't make them uncomfortable. I almost laughed. Years of growth, and still some part of me flinched at being fully seen. But I took a deep breath, grabbed the gift I'd chosen carefully, and walked out the door. Not to prove a point, just to see if I could walk into the past without falling back into it. I parked a block away. By habit, not design. Old instincts take longer to unlearn. The house glowed at the edges. Laughter floated from the backyard. Clinking glasses, soft music, curated joy. I walked the last stretch slowly, gift in hand, heart steady mostly. Mom met me at the patio door, her voice sweet practiced. Elena, we weren't sure you'd come. Translation, we hoped you wouldn't. Then came my sister, silk dress, perfect hair, that smile that never touched her eyes. You look cozy, she said, eyes scanning me like a receipt. Always loved your simple style. I nodded. Good to see you too. No hug, no warmth, just a smooth return to the version of me they preferred, quiet, small, politely forgettable. And I let them think she still existed. The table was long, linen draped, candles flickering like they had somewhere better to be. I found my seat, same spot as always, one from the end, close enough to smile far enough not to be asked real questions. The conversation danced like it always did. Internships, engagement rings, vacation plans with hashtags ready. My niece got a round of applause for landing a PR internship. My cousin's boyfriend was congratulated for getting promoted at Chase. When someone glanced my way, I nodded and lifted my glass. Not once did anyone ask what I'd been up to. They never did. In their eyes, I was still the one who left. Still chasing things that didn't fit their script. Still unfinished. So I sipped my water, smiled, and waited. Because part of me already knew the silence wouldn't last forever. It started small. A chuckle from Uncle Ray. Still driving that old Honda Elena, that thing's got more miles than your dad's lawnmower. Laughter followed, warm, easy practiced. No malice. Just comfort in the roles they'd rehearsed for years. Someone added, she always loved her bargain bins. Remember those homemade soaps for Christmas? More laughter. More eyes that didn't really see me. My sister sighed, performative. Elena's always been grounded, never let success get to her. Then with a smile sharp enough to cut, she's never really cared about appearances. I looked at her, straight through the mascara and the curated glow, and smiled. Good to know someone's keeping track. The table laughed again, but quieter this time, and beneath the noise I could feel something shifting, not in them, in me. I didn't flinch, didn't explain the car, didn't mention the team I led or the sale I'd closed, or the fact that I could have bought every vehicle in that driveway. I just sat there, straight spine, steady breath, letting them play the roles they rehearsed so well. Someone asked about my love life. I smiled, still choosing peace. That got a few forced chuckles, a raised brow, a shift in posture. They didn't know what to do with me when I didn't defend, didn't shrink, didn't try to please. They'd spent years writing a story about who I was, and now without saying a word, I was breaking their favorite ending. Sometimes silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's strategy. And I was finally learning how to let the quiet speak for me. It came between courses. Plates were being cleared, wine was refilled. The noise had settled just enough for one voice to carry. Her fiancé, Michael, looked across the table at me. Casual, curious. Hey, Elena. Random question. I looked up. He leaned in slightly. We were in St. Bart's last week. Saw a private jet. Had Carter Systems on the tail. Any chance that's you? Forks paused midair. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Even the jazz from the speakers seemed to lower itself. I felt the table tilt just a little. My sister blinked. My mother froze. And I smiled. Just enough. Yeah, I said. That's me. No flair, no explanation, just the truth dropped like a stone into still water. And the ripple was instant. Silence. Not awkward, not confused, stunned. My cousin's jaw actually dropped. My mother's fingers tightened around her wine glass. My sister's smile cracked just slightly. Michael blinked. Your Carter Systems, the logistics platform. You closed that Eastern freight deal last year, didn't you? I didn't nod, didn't deny, didn't elaborate. The truth was already doing the work. My sister let out a soft, flat laugh. She's kidding, she said quickly, then quieter. Right. I folded my napkin, placed it gently on the plate, met her eyes. No, I'm not. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. And for once, the story they'd built around me, the quiet, frugal failure, no longer fit. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't bragged. But everything had changed. I stood up slowly. No speech, no scene. Just the soft sound of my chair sliding back. I've got an early flight, I said as calmly as if nothing had shifted. But dessert's not even out, my mother blurted too quickly. Too late. I know. I walked around the table, past the cousin who once called me a cautionary tale, past the aunt who said I was just different, past the sister who spent years being the only one worth celebrating. No one followed. No one stopped me. I could feel the tension behind me like static, like smoke. Someone whispered, "She has a jet," but I didn't turn around. Some exits don't need doors slamming, just stillness, just truth left behind like a key on a table no one ever offered you a seat at. I sat in the car for a long time. Engine off, hands on the wheel. The porch lights still glowed behind me, their voices faint now, just murmurs and glassware clinking. I didn't feel rage, or pride, or the ache I used to carry home from nights like this. What I felt was light, like I'd just set down something heavy I'd been carrying for too long. I didn't need them to clap, didn't need a sorry, didn't need the room to catch up. The truth had done its job. It sat on the table without apology, glinting under candlelight, too real to dismiss. And for once, I didn't have to defend who I was. I just had to drive away quiet, steady whole. I got the text just after midnight from him, Michael. Sorry if that was awkward tonight. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Just respect what you've done. A lot. I stared at it. Not because it surprised me, but because it didn't. He meant well, I could tell, but the words weren't for me. They were for the version of me they'd never taken the time to know. I typed back, "Thanks, I'm used to awkward," then added, "That wasn't uncomfortable, that was clarity." He read it instantly, responded with a thumbs up. I turned the phone over. let it buzz again unread, because for the first time in years, I didn't need anyone to follow up. The door had already closed quietly, completely. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from adrenaline, not from regret, just the quiet weight of memory. I remembered being 12, sitting on the back porch steps while my sister opened birthday presents inside a party I wasn't invited to because it was just for her friends. I'd helped bake the cake. No one saved me a slice. I remembered prom night watching from the upstairs window as my cousin took photos in the front yard. No one asked if I had a dress. I remembered the hospital. Appendix ruptured. Weeks in recovery, no calls, no cards, not even a text. But a Craigslist roommate brought me soup, helped me walk again. And somehow, that hurt less than being forgotten by people who shared my last name. The next morning, my mother texted, "Why didn't you ever tell us about your business?" I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but because I knew that question wasn't about curiosity. It was about control, about rewriting the story so she wouldn't have to face how easily she'd dismissed me. If I answered, she'd say she was proud. She'd say she always knew I'd do something big, but it wouldn't be true, and I didn't need it to be. By noon, 2 cousins had messaged me. Coffee soon, would love to catch up, but they weren't reaching for me. They were reaching for the new version of me, the one with the jet. And I'd waited too long for invitations like that to believe they meant anything now. 2 days later, my assistant confirmed the jet was prepped for a new charter to Lisbon. I added one name to the passenger list, mine, booked it last minute. No plan, no performance, not to escape, but to leave something behind. I packed light, laptop, notebook, a pair of boots worn in all the right places. No one knew I was going, no one asked, and that somehow felt right. I boarded early, chose a window seat, held a glass of mineral water, watched the sky open wide in front of me as the jet rose above the coastline. Not for power, not for distance, just for peace. The air up there felt different, thinner, cleaner, like it hadn't touched judgment in miles. I didn't feel triumphant, didn't feel powerful, just still. For years, I thought freedom meant proving them wrong, getting loud, getting even, but sitting above the clouds, no one to impress, no one to defend myself to. I realized freedom is living without explaining. It's no longer needing to correct the story they told about you. It's choosing your next step without their echo in your head, not needing to be believed, not needing to be forgiven, not needing to be missed, just moving forward without looking over your shoulder. That was freedom, and for the first time, it fit me perfectly. I used to stare into rooms hoping someone would really look at me. Not through me. At me. I used to imagine the moment they'd say, "We were wrong about you," but that moment never came, and I stopped needing it. Because worth isn't a headline. It's not applause. It's not their sudden interest when your name means something outside the family tree. Worth is quieter. It's in every line of code I wrote with burning eyes and no heat in the apartment. It's in every decision I made when failure felt like the only ending. It's in the jobs I created, the people I paid fairly, the risks I took without permission. I stopped waiting to be seen, started living like I already was. And that changed everything. There's the silence that suffocates, the kind you learn to wear when no one's listening anyway. That silence used to live in me. Tight, heavy, like walking through a house that's not yours but still expecting you to clean up. Then there's the other kind. The silence you choose. The kind that feels like breath. That's the silence I live in now. It doesn't apologize, doesn't explain, doesn't shrink. It just holds space for everything I've become without needing to broadcast it. That dinner wasn't a performance. It wasn't revenge. It was proof, quiet, undeniable proof that truth doesn't need an audience. It just needs a moment. And I gave it one. Then I walked away without needing to say more. I know they're talking. They always do. Maybe I won the lottery. Maybe I had a secret investor. Maybe it's all exaggerated. They'll find a version that fits their comfort, something that explains it without making them wrong. My sister will downplay it. Call it tech luck. Say I got out at the right time. My mother will repeat Elena's always been independent like that. Explains everything she didn't bother to ask. They'll turn me into a mystery, a lesson, a warning, a fluke, but none of it will matter because I no longer live in their version of me. I left that character behind when I walked out without dessert. They can talk, they can rewrite, but the truth, it doesn't need them anymore. For so long, I thought I had to earn a seat at their table. Thought if I gave enough, proved enough, they'd finally make room. But I was wrong. They didn't need more proof. They needed me to stay small, so I built my own table. No centerpiece, no place cards, just room for people who see each other clearly. I don't chase updates, don't scroll their lives, don't measure mine against theirs. Not because I'm bitter, because I'm free. Every time I write a check, sign a deal, or wake up to quiet mornings, I remember I did this without their applause. That's the part they'll never understand. I didn't need them to validate my story. I just needed to stop handing them the pen. Healing didn't arrive with fanfare, no breakthrough moment, no teary confrontation in a kitchen. It came slowly, in the way I no longer flinched when my phone lit up with their names, in the way I didn't rehearse answers before walking into rooms that used to shrink me. It came in choosing stillness over defense, in choosing sleep over overthinking. No dramatic goodbye, no final argument, just distance that grew so natural it stopped feeling like distance. I didn't forgive them all at once, didn't forget. But I stopped holding the story like a wound. Now it's just a chapter, a quieter one, filed behind everything I built after. Healing wasn't loud, it was the moment I realized I no longer needed them to feel whole. I used to wonder what came next, who I'd become once I finally proved them wrong. But now I know that was never the real question. The truth is, the best part wasn't proving anything, it was no longer needing to. I don't wake up trying to impress anyone, I don't need to be invited in. I've already built something worth walking through. There's no finish line, no applause waiting around the bend. Just more mornings where I answer to myself and like the sound of my own voice. More rooms where I walk in without checking who's watching. The future isn't a reward. It's a continuation. One I get to shape fully freely finally. And this time no one else gets to narrate it. Sometimes memories still visit me. Not to haunt, just to remind. The porch light, the birthday without a slice of cake. The hospital silence, the way they said practical like it meant less. But when I think of those moments now, they feel like someone else's story. Someone smaller. Someone still asking to be seen. I carry her with me, not as baggage but as proof. She survived the rooms that overlooked her. She kept showing up even when the seat was cold and the spotlight never turned. She wrote code in the dark while no one cared. She kept building when no one was clapping. I look back at her now with nothing but respect. Not sorrow, not anger. Just gratitude. Because without her, there would be no me. I used to think closure meant having the last word, laying it all out, making them understand. But now I know closure isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet decision to stop showing up where you're only halfway welcome. I don't need a reunion. Don't need an apology from people still stuck in the version of me they feel safer believing. I don't owe them clarity. I gave it to myself. And that has been enough. I live in rooms they'll never enter. Make choices they'll never hear about. Build things they'll never see, not to hide. But because their view was never big enough for who I've become, let them talk, let them wonder. I'm already gone, and I'm not looking back. I didn't walk into that dinner to prove anything. I didn't need their eyes to light up, didn't need the questions they should have asked years ago. But the truth came anyway, not shouted, not performed, just spoken plainly, and it stayed, hung in the air. Changed everything without asking permission. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't need an audience. It just needs one moment and it knows what to do from there. I left that night without dessert, without a speech, without a single raised voice. But I've never felt more heard. Because real power doesn't explain itself. It just walks away without needing to be followed. And that in the end was my story. Told once, lived fully, left standing. If a part of you felt seen in this story in the silence, the climb, or the quiet strength of walking away, I'd love to know. Leave a comment. Tell me what stayed with you, and if this kind of truth speaks to you, hit subscribe. There's more to come. More stories for people who've learned to grow without applause.